raise our hand and pledge allegiance to our Constitution to uphold and defend and protect it.
Oh my goodness! Did
But
you
they're
see?
not doing that.
Did you see the video? Did you see the video of the master sergeant who was reaffirming her oath on reenlistment, where she did a hand puppet motion while she was reciting her oath?
Right.
Oh my goodness! People really do that nonsense?
We've got to be serious about it. We've got to become American patriots again, and that will lead to peace and prosperity. If we don't, I hate to see where that leads to.
Well, what's your answer to the question, Gary?
What's the question? What I would rather live free in a block of states, if that's what it comes down to, because I do not want to live in a socialist society. I want to live free. I want to be a sovereign citizen unto myself.
Do you depend on Social Security, or will you depend on Social Security?
And yes, but I think Social Security was the biggest mistake this country's ever made.
I didn't say, was it a big mistake? I said, do you depend on the largesse of the United States like a lot of people do, especially as those older guys?
Well, I'm a vet, so I depend upon a lot of the veterans stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm not retired yet, so I'm not living on Social Security. But my wife is. She retired because of mental problems, which I shouldn't be talking about on the radio.
Well,
is she a liberal?
No,
I'm
leave it alone.
sorry. I'm sorry.
No,
that was not
You
nice.
know what? Social Security is something we've paid into, and it's an insurance.
Yes,
it's an insurance
that's true too,
program.
Yeah. That's
and
not an entitlement.
It's not an entitlement. You paid for it. You deserve it. And if they don't spend it by giving it to people that haven't paid into the system, we'll be okay.
Yes, but if you have a civil war and you're no longer the federal government, you no longer have a federal government making those payments, you're rocking your own financial boat. That's where I'm coming from. I'm not opposed. Don't get me wrong. I'm just bringing up a point here.
Right. Well,
are you willing to live off your garden in your backyard and bartering with your neighbors?
Well, I'll tell you what. These are the times that tries men's souls, and people will make that decision at the time. You know, what's more important? To live in freedom or to live in tyranny? I think most Americans would like to live in freedom.
I think most young people these days, they've been inculcated in the indoctrination of the public school system, and they'd rather be socialists.
No,
Gary?
Well, that's true. And see, we'll have to make all those other decisions as the time wears on, as other things develop, whether or not we actually start firing at each other. I mean, if we start firing at each other, plant something in the backyard as fast as you can.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. I remember Theron was talking about cataclysmic events and what happened if there was a breakdown in society. And he had people calling in, and one guy called in and said, well, I have a deal with my neighbors. They have a lot of food, and I have guns. And he says, so what do you mean by that? He says, well, I'll provide them security, and they'll provide me food. So then I called in after the commercial, and I said, well, he says, Ed, what are you going to do? And I said, well, all my neighbors have food, and I have a lot of guns. And he says, so? I says, well, all my neighbors have food, and I have guns, and they don't. He got it.
What are you telling me? You can't grow food there, Ed?
Well, hey.
Hey, remind me, we're not neighbors, are we?
Yeah.
All right, you guys, you take it easy. Have a good time.
Thanks for calling in, Gary. Talk to you later.
Very
Bye.
good.
So, by the way, before we go much further, I want to talk about – no, I don't. I want to talk about Civil War a little bit more.
Sure.
So, some of the things Gary brought up, are in this list. I mean, there's tribalism. There's the moral decline. Right there's a big one. A moral decline means that people they don't have the integrity to stand up for values and self-worth. Some of the other things we're looking at here are lack of a shared culture. That's a big obvious right there. But that could, in fact, be related to lack of morals or moral decline. I mean, it used to be in this country that even if you weren't a Christian, you gave lip service to it, And nowadays, you've got like that one professor who is saying, I'm glad Barbara Bush died. You know what I mean? That's down on Bushes, and it's going to make their sons hurt, especially the war criminal. And somebody can actually say that on TV and get kudos. It's like that's a lack of a shared culture right there.
Well, I think what people need to know is when they attack the current culture, people will say the left attacks the current culture. They want to destroy it. You can't overturn a society without destroying the old one. And what we're seeing is an attack on the old society that's worked great.
Yeah.
So unless we're ready to do what's necessary to get out to vote in 2018, 2020, to make sure that your school boards are teaching the kids pro-Americanism or America first, we're going to have a problem. So it's up to us to engage in this cultural/civil war and make sure it continues at the ballot box and not in the bunkers.
I feel like I've been counterculture all my life. When I was, young, I was counterculture, hippie, counterculture. Now that I'm old, I'm counterculture. Darn the hippies. Get off my lawn, hippies.
Right. Right. Well, the thing is that we had a basis. Our parents provided a basis of what was right and wrong. And even though you grew your hair, you didn't disavow your country. Right. And today, I'm not so sure.
So I'm wondering, what would be a major trigger of a civil war today? Would that be them coming after the guns finally?
I think if they overthrew Trump through some sort of shenanigans,
wow.
I think that would be a big one. I think right now the Second Amendment is still sacrosanct in our land and in the Constitution. It's something that won't be overturned in the near term. But I think if they overturn election results, that's a trigger.
See, back in the original Civil War, there were major factions, and they had major orators and leaders. The South had people that, were politicians, sure. And there was a block of people behind them. And when I look at the conservative block of leaders today, except perhaps for Trump, I don't know where Mattis stands, to tell you the truth. I don't know where, But I'm wondering who would be the rallying cry, who would be the follow me boys guy. We've had enough of this. Let's take them out. Because somebody's got to draw the battle lines. Somebody's got to stand up first. Somebody's got to make the call. And I don't see anybody doing that.
Well,
not without going to federal prison for the rest of their natural days.
Right. But what you're doing here at Wham and what
I'm not leading a civil war. Don't get me in prison.
And what Theron is doing at Wham and on the social media where conservatives have a real voice, although they're trying to take that away, is fighting back. And that's what we're doing.
Yep, and that's what we're doing. And that's our mission here besides,
drinking coffee.
So thanks for coming and joining us on The Drift. Al, thanks for coming in and joining me.
My pleasure.
Thank you for all of you for listening. Don't forget, check out thedailydrift.com if it's for the news you need to know. And thanks, Derek, for all the help. I appreciate it.